So this is a critical disease. It's been estimated by the Pirbright Institute to cause around £54 million worth of damage to the cattle industry every year, and multiplied up globally, we're talking almost £6 billion worth of disease problem borne by the cattle industry globally.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Jeremy Salt. He's the CEO of the Vaccine Group, a Frontier IP Group portfolio company. Jeremy, very good to speak with you. You've announced results from two of your vaccine candidates aimed at tackling BRSV. Why is this important?
Well, a couple of reasons, really. BRSV is a major component of bovine respiratory disease, which is a big problem around the world in all intensively reared cattle farms. So this is a critical disease. It's been estimated by the Pirbright Institute to cause around £54 million worth of damage to the cattle industry every year, and multiplied up globally, we're talking almost £6 billion worth of disease problem borne by the cattle industry globally. So a big issue in terms of the disease itself. For TVG, it's really important because this validates what we've been doing for quite a while with this particular technology platform, developing vaccines for different animal species. And with these results, we've clearly shown that in cattle with this particular disease and the particular antigen we've chosen for the vaccine, we can produce an extremely efficacious vaccine. So really very important for the industry, cattle industry, but also for us as a company.
Jeremy, can you tell us what the trials entailed?
Yes, of course. So we've been working with the Animal Plant Health Agency in the UK at Weybridge, and we've conducted animal trials in calves. So we take commercially derived calves, we immunize them with our vaccine, we then hold them in an isolated facility and then challenge them with a very high dose of the organism, the Bovine Respiratory Syncytial Virus in this case, when they've had a chance to respond to the vaccine. And then we look at the clinical outcome, and we have various other parameters that we can look at as well in terms of virus shedding and also lung pathology. So these are key elements, and they're widely used across the industry when testing vaccines. So it's a very conventional study with a very well recognized model with a very good quality organization.
How does it compare to existing vaccines, Jeremy?
Well, BRSV, like human respiratory syncytial virus, has a bit of a checkered history with vaccines. The original approach was to grow the virus and use the whole virus and kill it, and then put it into a bottle and immunize cattle. And 40 or 50 years ago, same problems occurred in infants with the human version and also with young calves. That if you're not careful, it's possible to induce the wrong type of antibody response with these inactivated vaccines. So things have improved a lot. I think the fact that there are a number of these vaccines around the world from different manufacturers reflects the fact that this is a big disease. It's a big issue for the industry. So a lot of people have tried to develop vaccines. The difficulties are that maternal immunity coming across from the mother is good enough in the early weeks of life to protect the animal, and then there's a window of opportunity where the virus can infect animals and precipitate respiratory disease. And conventional vaccines that have now been developed, the live vaccines, aren't able to be used in that case because they're affected by this maternal immunity. And this has driven the development of intranasal vaccines, which are not really very convenient for farmers. There's some wastage that's seen there. So what we've been able to do is develop a vaccine that's not affected by maternal immunity because we're using a vector with only a very small part of the BRSV virus in there. And so we can avoid maternal immunity, use an injectable vaccine rather than have the difficulty of inoculating these animals intranasally. So I think it's got all the benefits of the intranasal vaccine. It's able to be used in young animals and avoids maternal immunity, but we're not having to hold the animals' heads and potentially lose some of the vaccine through sneezing, that type of thing.
Jeremy, what's next for TVG?
Well, we have ongoing discussions with commercial companies. Our business model is that we would seek to license out the technology, do some further development work under an option to license agreement, and then ultimately license the product to a commercial manufacturer and distributor. There are other options for us as well. If we are able to attract significant investment based on these results, which we think we should be able to, then we would also look at a slightly different business model where we actually develop the product internally. And then through the use of contract houses, we would then end up with a product asset that we could sell at the end of that program. So we've got a couple of different options, really, which is quite nice.
Jeremy, I hope you'll continue to keep us updated with your progress. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Steve.
Jeremy Salt, the CEO of the Vaccine Group.